dark side of being a Sigma that nobody talks about? Stoic life lessons. Stoicism. Being a Sigma isn't just about quiet confidence and independence. It's a path filled with hidden struggles that few acknowledge. People admire the lone wolf's ability to stand apart, but they don't see the weight of solitude, the exhaustion of always being self-reliant, or the alienation that comes with seeing through social illusions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." But what if that strength isolates you? What if self-mastery feels more like emotional detachment than peace? This isn't about self-pity. It's about revealing the side of Sigma life that doesn't make it into motivational speeches. Because understanding these struggles isn't just important for Sigmas, it's a lesson in resilience for anyone walking their own path. Let's uncover the truth. Welcome to Win Stoic. Number 1. Being punished for speaking the truth. Being punished for speaking the truth is one of the greatest paradoxes of modern life. From childhood, we are taught that honesty is a virtue, that truth sets us free. Yet, as we navigate the world, especially as men who have gained wisdom through decades of experience, we realize that truth often comes with consequences. For those with a Sigma personality, this isn't just an occasional inconvenience, it's a daily battle. A Sigma doesn't just accept things at face value. He sees through the noise, the illusions, and the socially accepted falsehoods that most people blindly follow. And that ability makes him dangerous in the eyes of those who thrive on deception, manipulation, and control. His refusal to play along with comfortable lies creates resistance wherever he goes. At work, a Sigma who points out inefficiencies isn't seen as insightful. He's seen as a problem. The boss who lacks confidence in his own leadership will perceive the Sigma as a threat rather than an asset. The colleagues who prioritize office politics over actual productivity will brand him as difficult rather than competent. In friendships, honesty is often mistaken for insensitivity. A Sigma tells his friends the truth, not to hurt, but to help. Yet most would rather be comforted by sweet lies than challenged by hard facts. The bitter reality? The world rewards those who tell people what they want to hear. Social circles celebrate those who validate delusions rather than those who dismantle them. And so the Sigma finds himself at odds with a world that prizes superficial harmony over authentic understanding. This resistance to truth isn't new. It has always been part of human nature. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Yet in today's world, doing what is right and saying what is true often means standing alone. This modern age, with its obsession over appearances and social approval, has made it even harder for truth-tellers to be heard. We live in a time of toxic positivity, a concept psychologist Dr. Susan David describes as the pressure to maintain an artificially positive outlook at all costs. People don't want reality, they want reassurance. And when a Sigma refuses to conform to this societal script, he is labeled as negative or difficult, even when he is simply stating the obvious. This rejection isn't because the Sigma is wrong, but because most people would rather remain comfortably ignorant than face uncomfortable truths. But what is Stoicism, if not the ability to endure such hardships with grace? The Stoic approach reminds us that we cannot control how others react, only how we respond. A Sigma must understand that his truthfulness is a gift, even if it is not always appreciated. Just as Seneca said, "Truth is never harmed by examination." A Sigma must remind himself that his insights, no matter how unwelcome, are valuable. That doesn't mean he should recklessly wield truth like a weapon. Rather, he must learn the art of measured honesty, knowing when to speak, how to frame his words, and when to walk away from those who refuse to hear him. Modern life is filled with people who live in denial. Denial about their health, their relationships, their careers, even their own happiness. A Sigma, with his natural ability to see things as they are, is often the one who shakes them awake. But waking people from their illusions can be a thankless task. It can cost friendships, opportunities, and sometimes even respect. However, as the Stoics teach, we must not seek validation from the external world, but from within. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." A Sigma must accept that his perspective will not always be welcomed, but that does not make it less true. So how should a Sigma navigate this reality? First, he must choose his battles wisely. Not every truth needs to be spoken, and not every listener is ready to hear it. There is wisdom in knowing when to share insights and when to let people learn on their own. Second, he must cultivate inner resilience, understanding that his worth is not defined by the approval of others. Third, he must seek out those who value truth, even if they are few. Quality always trumps quantity when it comes to relationships. And finally, he must remind himself that integrity is the ultimate reward. Even if the world does not celebrate his honesty, he can take pride in the fact that he never compromised his principles for the sake of convenience. The path of a Sigma is not an easy one, but it is a noble one. It is the path of the thinker, the observer, the man who values reality over illusion. It is the path of those who would rather walk alone with truth than be surrounded by crowds built on falsehoods. And while this journey may sometimes feel isolating, it is also deeply fulfilling, for there is no greater peace than the peace of knowing that you have remained true to yourself. In the end, the Sigma does not seek to fit in, because he knows that standing apart is the price of seeing clearly. As Marcus Aurelius put it, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." Number 2. The pain of outgrowing people you care about. There's a certain sadness that comes with sitting across from someone you've known for years and realizing you no longer see the world the same way. The words exchanged feel lighter, lacking the depth they once carried. The laughter that once felt natural now feels forced. Their aspirations seem unchanged, while yours have expanded, stretching into new territories they have no interest in exploring. For those with a Sigma personality, this isn't an isolated experience. It's a cycle that repeats over and over. The path of self-growth is one that inevitably leaves footprints behind, often leading to a painful realization. Not everyone you started the journey with is meant to walk with you until the end. Psychiatrist Carl Jung called this process individual evolution, the natural shedding of past identities, perspectives, and relationships as we grow. But for a Sigma, this evolution is not gradual. It is intense, relentless, and deeply personal. Unlike others who find comfort in stability, a Sigma craves understanding, constantly questioning, constantly pushing boundaries, making it nearly impossible to remain in relationships that no longer challenge them. You try. Of course you try. You hold back your thoughts, dilute your opinions, simplify your language, pretend to care about conversations that feel meaningless. You make excuses for why you're not as engaged as you once were, but deep down, you know the truth. The gap between who you are and who they remain is widening, and no matter how much you reach back, you cannot pull them forward. The most painful part of outgrowing people isn't the distance itself, it's the guilt. They haven't changed. They haven't wronged you. They aren't toxic or harmful. They are simply staying the same, content in the familiarity of their world, while you find yourself restless for something more. It's not their fault that their presence no longer nourishes you, just as it's not your fault that you crave more depth than they can offer. You wonder if it would be easier to just settle, to suppress your curiosity, to quiet the relentless hunger for meaning that keeps pulling you toward the unknown. But that's not how the Sigma mind works. You cannot unsee what you've seen. You cannot undo your own growth for the sake of comfort. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, underscore just that you do the right thing. The rest does not matter. Underscore, a Sigma's journey is not about keeping connections alive at all costs. It's about honoring the natural flow of life, even when it means letting go. This truth is easier said than lived. The loneliness that comes with evolving past people you care about is a heavy burden to carry. You watch friendships fade like old photographs losing their color, not because of betrayal or bitterness, but simply because the versions of yourselves that once fit together no longer exist. It's like revisiting a childhood home, only to realize it feels smaller than you remember, as if the walls have closed in, when in reality it is you who has grown beyond them. And in this growth, you come to understand one of the hardest lessons about relationships. Some are not meant to last forever. Some people are meant to walk with you only for a season, and their role in your life is no less meaningful because of its impermanence. In life, this phenomenon is more common than we acknowledge. How often do we see people clinging to friendships, relationships, or social circles that no longer align with who they are, simply because letting go feels too painful? How many men remain in conversations that drain them, in habits that stagnate them, in communities that no longer challenge them, because the alternative, solitude, feels too uncertain? But solitude is not the enemy. If anything, it is the space in which true alignment happens. A Sigma does not fear being alone, because he understands that true connection is not measured in numbers, but in depth. Stoicism today teaches us that happiness is not found in the approval of others, but in the alignment of our actions with our values. Seneca reminds us, underscore, associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. Underscore, in other words, the quality of those around you will directly shape the quality of your own mind. Second, accept that not everyone will follow the same path, and that does not mean they are lesser than you. It simply means they are on a different timeline. Third, seek out those who challenge you, who force you to think deeper, to be better. The right relationships are not the ones that keep you comfortable, but the ones that push you forward. Finally, embrace the solitude that comes with evolution, for it is in these moments of quiet that the most profound self-discoveries are made. A Sigma's journey is one of continuous transformation, and with transformation comes loss. But that loss is not an end. It is a clearing, making space for new connections, deeper experiences, and a life that is truly aligned with who you are becoming. The pain of outgrowing people is real, but so is the peace that comes with knowing you are living in truth. As Epictetus wisely said, he who seeks wisdom is already wise, and in seeking, in questioning, in refusing to settle, you are not just moving forward, you are stepping into the highest version of yourself. This is not just the price of growth, it is its greatest reward. Number 3. When intelligence feels like a curse. There's a unique kind of loneliness that comes with seeing the world in ways others don't. Studies consistently show that people with higher intelligence often report feeling isolated, not because they choose to be, but because their depth of perception sets them apart. And for those with a Sigma mindset, this divide feels even wider. It's not just about being smart, it's about seeing connections others miss, catching patterns that others overlook, and feeling the weight of that awareness in every interaction. While most people can switch off, enjoy the moment, and find happiness in surface-level pleasures, your mind doesn't allow such luxuries. You're constantly analyzing, questioning, and connecting the dots. As if your brain is a high-powered machine that never shuts down, you walk into a room and immediately pick up on micro-expressions, social dynamics, hidden tensions. A simple conversation becomes an intellectual exercise. You catch inconsistencies, notice contradictions, and sense the unspoken. What others accept at face value, you instinctively break down and scrutinize from every possible angle. Psychologists call this cognitive complexity, the ability to perceive multiple layers in situations that most would dismiss as simple. While it gives you an edge in understanding human nature, it also becomes an exhausting burden. You see things people don't see, hear things they don't hear, and comprehend realities they don't even know exist. A movie that others find thrilling feels predictable to you because you've already mapped out the storyline within the first 15 minutes. Advice that people swear by seems flawed to you because you immediately spot the logical inconsistencies. Casual small talk feels tedious because while others are content with discussing the weather, your mind is busy unpacking human psychology, history, or the deeper motives behind their words. The worst part? You can't turn it off. While others can blissfully ignore life's complexities, your mind refuses to. You see through the facades, the contradictions, the shallow reasoning, and it makes navigating social life feel like walking through a world of illusions. When your ability to see through illusions makes you feel disconnected rather than enlightened, this is the silent struggle of the Sigma man. The realization that intelligence, though a gift, can sometimes feel like a curse. The ability to think deeply can be both empowering and isolating. You want meaningful conversations, but you find that most people are uninterested or incapable of going beyond the surface. You crave intellectual stimulation, but the world rewards emotional appeal over logical reasoning. You value truth, but you realize that most people prefer comforting lies. This disconnect creates a constant internal conflict. Do you suppress your insights to fit in, or do you embrace them and risk further isolation? Stoicism today offers an answer, one that high-value men have understood for centuries. Instead of resenting the burden of intelligence, you must learn to wield it with discipline. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." A mind that constantly processes is not the problem. The problem is directing that mental energy into something meaningful. If your intelligence makes it difficult to relate to others, use it to create value. Write, build, teach, solve problems. Channel your depth of thought into something that elevates rather than isolates. Instead of becoming frustrated with those who don't think as deeply, practice patience and learn when to engage and when to let things be. There is wisdom in choosing your battles and understanding that not every conversation needs to be a debate, not every flaw needs to be pointed out, and not every person is ready to see what you see. Win Stoic thinking reminds us that the highest value men don't seek validation from the world, they create their own path. Intelligence becomes a curse only when it is not harnessed. The mind, like a powerful engine, must be directed, not left to run aimlessly. It is the difference between a fire that warms a home and a fire that burns it down. As Epictetus wisely stated, man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. The key is learning to control what you focus on. Instead of allowing your thoughts to pull you into a spiral of overanalysis, direct them toward mastery. Develop a craft, a discipline, a philosophy of life that turns your intelligence into an asset rather than a source of frustration. Yes, intelligence can make the world feel lonely. Yes, it can make social interactions feel tedious. Yes, it can make the simple joys of life seem dull in comparison to the depths your mind naturally explores. But the solution is not to resent this ability. It is to refine it, to use it strategically, and to recognize that true fulfillment does not come from fitting in, but from fully embracing who you are. High-value men, those who embody the essence of Win Stoic thinking, do not complain about their differences. They leverage them. They do not let their intelligence become a weight that isolates them. They use it to rise above. The question isn't whether intelligence is a curse, it's whether you have the discipline to use it as a weapon rather than a weakness. That choice is yours to make. Number 4. The frustration of watching mediocrity get rewarded. There's a deep frustration that comes with seeing mediocrity rewarded while genuine excellence is ignored. It's a gut punch every time, the promotion going to the smooth talker rather than the competent worker, the credit landing in the lap of the one who knows how to market themselves rather than the one who actually delivers results. For a man with a Sigma personality, this pattern is all too familiar. You don't just observe it, you see through it. You recognize the political maneuvering, the way style often beats substance, how superficial charm can be more valuable in certain environments than quiet capability. It's a world where perception is reality, where those who master the art of self-promotion often outrun those who master their craft. The British philosopher Bertrand Russell once put it perfectly, "The whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, while wiser people are full of doubts." And in the professional and social world, this dynamic plays out over and over again. The loudest voice in the room drowns out the best ideas. The project with the flashiest presentation wins over the one with the most solid foundation. The man who understands how to cultivate influence moves ahead, while the one who simply does great work is left wondering why effort alone wasn't enough. It's like watching a magic show where the audience is too dazzled by the obvious tricks to see what's really happening behind the curtain. The hardest part isn't just watching mediocrity succeed, it's resisting the temptation to play the same game. You know you could do it. You could start bragging more, networking better, playing the politics game to climb the ladder faster. It wouldn't even be difficult, because you're already more capable than most of the people benefiting from this system. But something inside you resists. Maybe it's pride, maybe it's stubbornness, or maybe it's simply that as a Sigma, You refuse to sacrifice authenticity for temporary rewards. You see through the illusion and you refuse to take part in it. There's an inner standard you hold yourself to, one that doesn't bend to external validation or societal trends. You'd rather be overlooked for doing the right thing than be celebrated for playing the wrong game. You'd rather take quiet satisfaction in knowing you built something real than enjoy a fleeting moment of empty applause. Yet, this mindset often comes with its own burdens. When you see others advancing through shortcuts, while you stay true to your values, it can create a sense of injustice. You might even question if integrity is worth it when the world seems to reward deception. But this is where Stoic life lessons come in. What is Stoicism, if not the ability to endure what we cannot control, while focusing on what we can? Epictetus famously taught, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." You cannot control how the world rewards mediocrity, but you can control how you respond to it. You can choose not to let it embitter you. You can choose to find fulfillment in the work itself, in the knowledge that true quality has its own intrinsic worth, whether or not the world acknowledges it. And here's something many people miss. While the game of self-promotion may work in the short term, real excellence has longevity. History remembers those who built something real, not those who merely talked a good game. The high-value men who truly impact the world are not those who chase status, but those who create lasting value. It is why we still read the works of Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus, while the names of ancient flatterers and opportunists have long been forgotten. A Sigma man understands this truth. You are playing a different game, one measured not by immediate recognition, but by long-term impact. Of course, this doesn't mean you have to reject all forms of strategy. Even Marcus Aurelius, as disciplined as he was, understood the importance of political skill. The difference is intention. There is a way to navigate the system without compromising your values. You can learn how to position yourself without becoming hollow. You can master communication without resorting to deceit. You can ensure that your work is seen without selling your soul for approval. The key is to stay anchored in your purpose. Instead of playing their game, redefine the game on your terms. Be so good that eventually you cannot be ignored. Build skills that speak louder than empty words. Create things that outlast the fleeting nature of popularity. Find allies who recognize depth over display. In the end, the world may never fully reward substance over showmanship. That is the unfortunate reality of human nature. But the men who shape history, the ones who leave behind legacies, are not those who simply played to the crowd, but those who refused to let the crowd dictate their standards. A Sigma's journey is not about chasing validation, but about crafting something of real significance. Your intelligence, your skills, your insights, they are not wasted just because they are not immediately recognized. The only real waste is in abandoning them to fit into a system that values mediocrity. As Marcus Aurelius said, the object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. Stay the course. Let others chase their fleeting rewards while you build something timeless. Number 5. Feeling like a lone wolf in a pack-driven world. Feeling like a lone wolf in a pack-driven world is not just a phase. It's a way of being for those who embody the Sigma mindset. Have you ever been at peace doing things your own way, only to have others act like your independence is a problem that needs to be solved? It's one of life's strangest paradoxes. The very traits that make you strong also make others uncomfortable. While the majority seek constant validation, direction, and social reinforcement, you have always known how to stand alone. Your ability to navigate life on your own terms isn't a defect. It's a rare strength that many misunderstand. You don't reject people, you simply don't depend on them for your sense of identity or purpose. Psychologist Abraham Maslow called this self-actualization, the ability to grow, make decisions, and find fulfillment without relying on external approval. And yet, society seems determined to misinterpret this trait. If you enjoy a quiet dinner alone, people assume you're lonely. If you spend your weekend immersed in your own interests rather than social obligations, they think you're antisocial. If you take a solo trip, they wonder what's wrong. But the reality is, you know yourself well enough to prioritize what truly fulfills you. You recharge in solitude, not because you dislike people, but because your energy isn't sustained by constant social interaction. It's sustained by meaning, purpose, and deep thought. This confusion around your independence is more than just social misunderstanding. It is deeply rooted in how people view connection. In a world where group identity dominates, the idea of an individual who operates outside the herd is unsettling to most. Your comfort with being alone is perceived as emotional detachment, your self-sufficiency mistaken for arrogance, and your selective socializing seen as aloofness. You value real connections, not forced interactions. You engage when it's meaningful, not out of obligation. You lead your own life, not because you think you're better than others, but because following the crowd has never been your path. This is something that's not often understood, because most are conditioned to equate social engagement with success and worth. As Susan Cain famously said, "There's zero connection between being the best talker and having the best ideas. You don't waste your energy trying to be the loudest in the room." And that alone sets you apart in a world obsessed with appearances. Look at great thinkers, innovators, and leaders. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, spent much of his time in reflection, recording his thoughts on life rather than seeking validation from those around him. He wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." Stoicism today still teaches us this, to live for our own principles, not for the expectations of others. The greatest minds in history, Nikola Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci, even Steve Jobs, were not men who followed the crowd. They walked alone, thought deeply, and shaped the world on their own terms. And yet, in their time, many of them were seen as outliers, misunderstood, and even ridiculed for refusing to conform. So what does this mean for you? It means you have a choice. You can spend your energy explaining yourself to people who will never understand, or you can embrace your nature fully. The world will always try to push you toward the norm, to fit you into a mold that makes sense to them. But as a Sigma, you already know that the pursuit of external validation is a dead end. What truly matters is living in alignment with your own values. If solitude makes you stronger, don't fight it. Lean into it. If independence fuels your creativity, don't suppress it. Use it. If you don't crave constant attention, don't pretend you do. The Sigma mindset is about knowing what drives you and having the discipline to stay the course even when the world tells you to change. But let's not mistake independence for isolation. The key to living well as a Sigma isn't shutting the world out. It's being intentional about who and what you allow into your life. You don't need a large social circle, you need the right people. You don't need endless conversation, you need meaningful dialogue. You don't need approval, you need purpose. And if that means walking alone more often than not, so be it. Because, as the Stoics taught, the only approval that matters is the one you give yourself. Seneca once wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." Underscore. A Sigma does not waste time on relationships that drain him, nor does he seek connection for the sake of filling silence. He chooses depth over frequency, meaning over convenience. Now, let's put this into modern perspective. Have you ever noticed how the world seems to glorify extroversion, constant networking, and social visibility? Social media rewards those who are always on, always posting, always engaging. But what happens when you step back? When you disconnect from the noise and focus on your own path? You become clearer. Your mind sharpens. Your focus strengthens. While others are busy chasing attention, you are building something real. And here's the thing. True high-value men are not defined by how many people know their name, but by the quality of the life they lead. The world might not understand your independence, but that doesn't mean you need to justify it. Your ability to stand alone is what makes you strong. The Sigma path isn't easy, but it is yours, and that, more than anything, is what makes it worth walking. Stay the course. Stay true, because in the end, the world may not always understand the lone wolf, but it will always respect the man who refuses to compromise who he is. If this video resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to Win Stoic for more deep insights into the Sigma mindset, Stoic life lessons, and the philosophy of self-mastery. Don't forget to like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. And most importantly, turn on notifications so you never miss our upcoming videos. Thank you for watching. Stay strong, stay true, and keep evolving. Walking alone, a forgotten but priceless skill. Independence is the key to success. We live in a world of endless noise, constant messages, meetings, and digital distractions. True solitude has become a rare experience, and for many, an uncomfortable one. Society often equates being alone with loneliness, yet some of history's greatest minds, Marcus Aurelius, Einstein, and Nietzsche, found their strength in solitude. Why do we fear being alone? Because we've never been taught its power. In a world obsessed with socializing, we forget the most crucial skill: walking alone, thinking independently, embracing self-reflection, and finding strength in solitude. The ability to stand alone is what separates those who follow from those who lead. If you can't walk alone, can you ever truly walk your own path? Here's how to reclaim this lost skill and turn solitude into your greatest advantage. 1. Change your surroundings. Changing your surroundings is more than just a physical shift. It's a mental and emotional reset, a deliberate step toward understanding yourself better in a world that constantly demands your attention. In a society where we are always connected, surrounded by people at work, at home, and even in our digital spaces, solitude has become a lost art. Yet, it is in solitude that some of the greatest minds found clarity, purpose, and strength. The Stoics, whose wisdom has endured for centuries, understood this well. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality," reminding us that the discomfort of being alone is often self-imposed. Taking a solo trip going for a walk, or simply sitting in silence can be one of the most powerful ways to reconnect with yourself. You don't need to escape to a remote mountain or book an expensive retreat. Changing your environment can be as simple as taking a different route to work, finding a quiet park to sit in, or even spending an afternoon without digital distractions. The point is to remove yourself from the noise, from the endless expectations of others, and to exist in a space where you can hear your own thoughts clearly. It is in these moments that you begin to understand what truly matters to you, what you have been avoiding, and what changes you need to make. Many of the greatest figures in history sought solitude to gain insight. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor burdened with immense responsibility, often reminded himself to retreat into his own mind. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." In our modern world, where distractions are abundant and external validation is constantly sought, taking time to be alone might feel unnatural, yet it is necessary. Consider how much of your life is dictated by routine, social expectations, and obligations. Have you ever truly chosen to be alone with your thoughts, to reflect without the influence of the world around you? This is why changing your surroundings is so important. It allows you to break free from the habitual patterns that keep you stuck. Walking alone, quite literally, is one of the simplest yet most profound practices you can adopt. It offers a chance to clear your mind, observe the world without distraction, and cultivate a sense of independence. Walking is not just exercise for the body, but for the mind. Nietzsche, a philosopher who valued solitude, once said, "All truly great thoughts are conceived while walking." When you remove yourself from the familiar, your mind begins to work differently. You process things you've been suppressing, you let new ideas surface, and you come back with a refreshed perspective. This is why so many creative individuals, from writers to scientists, make long walks a part of their daily practice. But beyond the practical benefits, walking alone or spending time in solitude in any form is an exercise in self-sufficiency. Many people avoid being alone because they fear what they might discover about themselves. They keep themselves busy, distracted, and surrounded by others because silence can be unsettling. But what is truly unsettling is never taking the time to understand yourself. The Stoics believed in mastering the self, in controlling what is within our power and accepting what is not. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When you intentionally change your surroundings, you are practicing self-mastery. You are choosing to step away from the noise, to confront your thoughts, and to cultivate resilience. In today's fast-paced world, where social interactions are often shallow and driven by obligation rather than genuine connection, learning to enjoy your own company is a superpower. The ability to walk alone, both physically and metaphorically, means that you are not dependent on external validation to feel content. It means that you can make decisions based on your own principles, not on the expectations of others. This is the essence of Stoic life lessons, learning to find contentment and strength within yourself rather than in external circumstance. To make this a habit, start small. Dedicate time each week to be alone in a new environment. Go to a coffee shop by yourself and simply observe. Take a drive without a destination, or find a quiet place where you can reflect on your life's direction. Modern society often equates being alone with loneliness, but they are not the same. Loneliness is a state of mind, a belief that you are lacking something. Solitude, on the other hand, is a choice. It is the ability to be content with yourself, to enjoy your own thoughts, and to cultivate an inner world that is rich and fulfilling. "He who is brave is free," said Seneca, and bravery often begins with facing oneself. So, challenge yourself, change your surroundings, embrace solitude, and cultivate the independence that leads to true success. The more you practice being alone, the more you realize that you are never truly alone. You are always with yourself, and that is more than enough. What is Stoicism, if not the art of mastering oneself and embracing life with clarity, courage, and resilience? In a world that constantly demands your attention, reclaim your time, your mind, and your independence. The path to true strength begins with the ability to walk alone. 2. Turn off all technology. Turning off technology is not just about giving your eyes a break from the screen. It's about reclaiming your mind, your time, and your sense of self. In today's hyper-connected world, where notifications, emails, and messages constantly demand our attention, solitude has become a rare and undervalued experience. But true independence, the kind that allows you to think clearly, make decisions confidently, and build a strong sense of self, requires detaching from the noise of the digital world. Every day we are bombarded with curated versions of other people's lives, making us compare ourselves to unrealistic standards, questioning whether we are doing enough, achieving enough, or living the right way. The truth is, you don't need to see what others are doing every second of the day. You need to focus on your own path, your own journey. The Stoics understood this well, teaching that true happiness does not come from external validation, but from within. Have you ever found yourself reaching for your phone without even thinking, scrolling endlessly, and suddenly realizing that an hour has passed? This habit isn't just wasting time, it's weakening your ability to be alone with yourself. Many people are afraid of silence, afraid of facing their thoughts without distraction. But this is exactly where true self-awareness and self-growth happen. A person who cannot sit alone without stimulation has lost control over their own mind. Technology should be a tool that serves you, not a master that controls you. By intentionally stepping away from it, even for short periods, you begin to regain control. Try this. Spend an hour without your phone each day. Leave it behind when you go for a walk. Eat your meals without scrolling through social media. Start your morning in quiet reflection instead of immediately checking emails. These small moments of disconnection create space for deeper thinking, better decision-making, and a greater sense of peace. There is a powerful story about a successful businessman who, despite his wealth, constantly felt restless and overwhelmed. He was always connected, always responding to messages, always consuming information, yet he felt as if he had no control over his life. One day, he decided to take a trip to a remote cabin with no internet, no phone, and no distraction. At first, the silence was unbearable. He felt anxious, as if he were missing out on something important. But slowly, as the days passed, his mind became clearer. He started writing, reflecting on his life, and realizing what truly mattered. By the time he returned, he had a new perspective. He no longer needed constant stimulation to feel engaged with life. He learned that solitude was not loneliness. It was a necessary ingredient for clarity and true happiness. This is the power of turning off technology. It forces you to confront yourself, to think without external influence, and to build a mindset that is resilient and self-sufficient. In modern society, where productivity is glorified and being busy is worn as a badge of honor, many people feel guilty for stepping away. But ask yourself, when was the last time you truly listened to your own thoughts without distraction? When was the last time you sat in silence, simply observing, without feeling the need to document the moment or share it online. The Stoic mindset teaches us that external things, whether they be material wealth, social approval, or digital engagement, are outside of our control and should not dictate our sense of happiness. Epictetus reminded us, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Applying this to technology, wealth is not in having unlimited access to information, but in having the discipline to control how much of it you allow into your life. The more you detach from digital noise, the more you realize how little of it actually adds value to your existence. One of the biggest excuses people make for not disconnecting is that technology is necessary for work, communication, and staying informed. While this is true, the issue is not technology itself, it is our relationship with it. Many of us check our phones not because we need to, but out of habit. We seek distraction whenever we feel bored, anxious, or even slightly uncomfortable. But growth happens in discomfort. The greatest thinkers, creators, and leaders in history understood the importance of solitude, of deep focus, of moments free from distraction. If you truly want to cultivate independence and personal strength, start practicing intentional disconnection. Instead of mindlessly scrolling, replace that time with something meaningful. Read a book, journal your thoughts, go for a walk. Have a real conversation with someone without the distraction of a screen. These small acts of self-discipline build mental toughness, self-awareness, and clarity. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, warned against the dangers of living life passively, of being swept away by distractions, rather than consciously choosing how to spend our time. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." The lesson here is simple but powerful. Technology is a tool, not a necessity for happiness. The more you disconnect, the more you reconnect with yourself. Solitude is where ideas are born, where self-awareness deepens, and where true independence is cultivated. The modern world convinces us that constant connection is essential, but the reality is that clarity, creativity, and inner peace come from moments of disconnection. So take control, set boundaries with your digital life, turn off the noise, walk alone, both physically and mentally, and discover the strength that comes from truly knowing yourself. This is Stoicism Today. Learning to master your mind, control your impulses, and build a life where you are free from the constant need for external validation. And ultimately, this is the path to true Stoic happiness, living with purpose, presence, and complete independence from the distractions that hold you back. 3. Reflect. Reflection is one of the most powerful tools for personal growth. Yet in the fast-paced, noise-filled world we live in today, it is often overlooked. When was the last time you sat alone, in complete silence, and truly examined your life? Not just a fleeting thought about your to-do list or worries, but a deep, honest look at where you are, where you've been, and where you want to go. The act of self-reflection separates the average from the extraordinary, the reactive from the proactive, the drifters from the high-value men who take control of their destinies. He who does not know what he wants does not know who he is, said Seneca, reminding us that clarity of purpose starts with internal dialogue. When you walk alone, physically or mentally, you give yourself the space to listen to the voice inside you, the one that often gets drowned out by social media, responsibilities, and the expectations of others. Win Stoic principles teach us that a strong man must not only face the world, but also face himself. This is where real power lies. The challenge for most people is not that they lack the ambition to improve, but that they never take the time to reflect on their direction. We live in an era where distractions are limitless. Entertainment is always at our fingertips. Social validation is just a post away, and external opinions cloud our own. But what happens when you strip all that away? When you sit in silence, no screens, no music, no outside influences, just you and your thoughts. It can be uncomfortable at first. Many people avoid self-reflection because they fear what they might find. Regrets, failures, doubts. They all rise to the surface. But here's the truth. Only by facing them can you overcome them. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, would write his reflections daily in what we now call meditations, and he reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Strength comes from within, and within is where you must look to find it. If you truly want to be independent, to walk through life as a man of value, you need to engage in consistent self-reflection. Not just once when things go wrong, but as a habit, as part of your daily routine. Start asking yourself powerful questions. Am I living according to my values? Have I been honest with myself about my weaknesses? What am I truly chasing, and is it worth it? Too many people chase things they don't even want. Jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, validation that doesn't fulfill them. But a high-value man knows what he wants and why he wants it. He doesn't move aimlessly, he directs his steps with purpose. Win Stoic principles teach that reflection is not self-pity, it is self-mastery. You don't reflect to dwell on the past, but to refine your path forward. The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle is the ability to pause and think critically about their actions. Reflection isn't weakness, it's strategy. Great military leaders don't just charge into battle without planning. They analyze, adjust, and execute with precision. Your life is no different. If you want to build wealth, improve your relationships, or master your mind, you need to reflect on what's working and what's holding you back. An unexamined life is not worth living, Socrates once declared, and this truth stands even stronger today when so many people go through life on autopilot, reacting instead of directing. So how do you reflect effectively? First, create an environment that allows for deep thought. Whether it's a quiet room, a long walk, or a drive with no distractions, give yourself space. Many high-value men take time each day to sit with a journal and write down their thoughts, victories, and challenges. Others prefer to meditate or simply sit in thought. There is no right or wrong way, only that you do it. Second, be brutally honest with yourself. This is not the time for sugarcoating or self-delusion. If you have been lazy, admit it. If you have been making excuses, call yourself out. If you are not where you want to be, ask yourself why. The truth may be hard to face, but only the strong can handle it, and only those who face it can change. The beauty of self-reflection is that it transforms pain into wisdom. Every failure carries a lesson. Every setback is an opportunity to refine your approach. Instead of regretting, start extracting value from your experiences. When you reflect deeply, you begin to see patterns in your behavior, what triggers your bad habits, what fuels your best performances, and what truly fulfills you. This is how you grow. This is how you sharpen yourself into a man who is decisive, powerful, and respected. One of the most common excuses people make is, "I don't have time to reflect." But the truth is, if you don't have time to think about your life, you don't have time to live it properly. even 5 minutes of focused reflection a day can make a difference. Successful men don't leave their progress to chance. They assess, adjust, and improve. They use reflection as a weapon, not as a luxury. And make no mistake, if you don't take the time to reflect, you will be forced to face the consequences of poor decisions made blindly. Reflection is not just about thinking, it's about taking action based on what you discover. If you recognize a weakness, develop a plan to fix it. If you see an opportunity, take it. If you realize you're on the wrong path, have the courage to change direction. This is what separates men who lead from men who follow. In the end, self-reflection is the mirror that reveals who you truly are. It is not always comfortable, but it is always necessary. A man who does not reflect is a man who does not grow. The journey to success, wisdom, and true independence begins in the quiet moments where you dare to face yourself. Walk alone, not because you have to, but because it is where you sharpen your mind, strengthen your will, and discover what you are truly capable of. This is the essence of Win Stoic living, mastering yourself so that nothing and no one else can master you. 4. Treat yourself well. Treating yourself well is not an act of indulgence, it is an act of self-respect, a declaration that you recognize your own worth, and an acknowledgement that your happiness is just as important as your responsibilities. Too often, men in their 40s, 50s and beyond are conditioned to believe that their primary role is to provide for others, to be the rock for their families, their businesses and their communities, while neglecting their own well-being. The truth is, walking alone is not just about solitude. It is about self-care, about learning to enjoy your own company, and about discovering that you deserve the same kindness and appreciation you so freely give to others. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "You must live for yourself first before you can live for others." This is not selfishness. This is sustainability. A man who treats himself well, who allows himself moments of joy and relaxation, is a man who can continue to give to the world from a place of abundance rather than exhaustion. In modern life, men often fall into the trap of believing that their worth is tied to their productivity, that time spent enjoying a good meal, watching a film alone, or simply sitting in a quiet cafe is wasted. But the opposite is true. When you take time to treat yourself well, you are refueling your mind and body, ensuring that you remain sharp, present, and engaged with life. It's easy to lose sight of this in a world that demands constant output. But what is Stoicism if not the practice of balance? Marcus Aurelius, a leader who carried the weight of an empire, understood this well when he wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." He reminds us that stress, exhaustion, and burnout are not inevitable. They are choices that come from an unwillingness to step back and care for oneself. If you have spent your life working, building, and supporting others, then taking yourself out for a meal, buying that book you've been eyeing, or even just spending a quiet evening with a glass of wine is not indulgence, it is restoration. The act of treating yourself well is a statement that you are not just a worker, a father, or a businessman, but a man who is worthy of joy and comfort in his own right. There is a simple but powerful shift that occurs when a man learns to enjoy his own company. When you no longer need external validation to feel content, you become untouchable. You are no longer dependent on the praise of others, the distractions of social media, or the noise of a busy world to feel whole. This is the core of Stoic life lessons, learning that everything you need is already within you. Treating yourself well is a physical expression of this philosophy. It's sitting down to a beautifully prepared meal and allowing yourself to savor each bite. It's taking a walk in the morning, not because you have to, but because it clears your mind and resets your focus. It's buying yourself something of value, not because you need it, but because you deserve it. And most importantly, it is doing these things without feeling the need to justify them to anyone. Many men struggle with this because they have been conditioned to believe that pleasure should come from external sources, from the approval of their peers, from a successful career, from financial gain. But as Epictetus wisely noted, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This means that real wealth, the kind that brings peace and fulfillment, comes from being satisfied with what you have, from finding joy in the simple things, and from recognizing that treating yourself well does not require luxury, but rather the willingness to prioritize yourself. High-value men, those who command respect and admiration, are not just successful in their careers. They are successful in their ability to cultivate a life they genuinely enjoy. They do not wait for others to provide happiness. They create it for themselves. They understand that solitude is not a punishment but a privilege, a time to reflect, recharge, and realign with their own desires. And this is where the unexpected rewards of solitude come in. When you start treating yourself well, when you allow yourself moments of joy without guilt, something remarkable happens. You become more confident, more self-sufficient, and more in tune with your own needs. You no longer seek distractions to fill a void, because there is no void. You no longer look to others to determine your worth, because you already know it. And the more you practice this, the stronger you become. So, how do you start? Begin small. Dedicate one evening a week to yourself. Take yourself out to a restaurant you enjoy. Go see a film alone, or simply sit in a quiet place with a cup of coffee and no distractions. Make it a ritual, a time where you celebrate yourself without excuse. If this feels uncomfortable at first, good. That means you're breaking free from old conditioning. Growth always begins with discomfort. Over time, this practice will shift your mindset, and you'll realize that being alone is not something to avoid, but something to embrace. Ultimately, treating yourself well is an act of self-empowerment. It is a declaration that your happiness is not secondary to your responsibilities, that you are worthy of the same care and attention you give to others. Walking alone in life, both literally and metaphorically, is about more than just independence. It's about learning to be your own source of fulfillment. This is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, the reactive from the proactive, the lost from the self-possessed. Win Stoic principles teach us that a man who masters himself masters his world, and part of that mastery is learning how to nurture his own well-being. Thank you for taking the time to walk this journey with me. Your presence here means that you are seeking growth, self-mastery, and a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be independent. Walking alone is not about isolation. It's about strength, clarity, and reclaiming your own power. The more you embrace solitude, the more you will realize that everything you need is already within you. If today's message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on how you can apply these lessons in your own life. And if you found value in this, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with those who might need it. Stay strong, stay mindful, and most importantly, keep walking forward with purpose. This is Win Stoic, and until next time, remember, the path to true freedom begins with the courage to walk alone. Thank you.